This video depicts topics of violence, murder, and death and is not suitable for all audiences. Viewer discretion is advised.
Saint Blaise, also known as Blaise of Sebaste, was born on the 3rd century in Sebastia, modern-day Sivas, Turkey, a city located in historical Armenia within the Roman province of Cappadocia. Little is known about his family or early upbringing, but he is believed to have come from a wealthy background. His parents likely provided him an education that included Greek and possibly Latin, which would have been necessary for a person of status in the Eastern Roman Empire. Blaise became a physician before embracing a religious calling. His medical expertise contributed to his reputation as a healer, both physically and spiritually. Eventually, he entered the clergy and rose to the position of Bishop of Sebaste. As bishop, he was known for his piety, pastoral care, and commitment to his flock, particularly during times of persecution against Christians. During his tenure, Christianity was still under threat from the Roman authorities, despite the growing influence of the faith. Blaise ministered to his congregation in secret, ensuring their safety while continuing to spread Christian teachings. His reputation as a holy man and miracle worker attracted both believers and non-believers alike. To avoid persecution, Blaise withdrew to a cave in the mountains outside Sebaste, where he lived as a hermit. According to tradition, he found solace among his animals and the wild nature, who sought his protection and healing. He reportedly cured sick or injured animals that approached him, which contributed to his later reputation as a patron saint of those suffering from throat ailments. One of the most famous miracles attributed to Blaise occurred when a mother brought her child who was choking on a wishbone to him. Through his prayers and blessings, the child was healed. This miracle became the foundation for the association with throat-related blessings in Christian traditions. During the reign of Emperor Licinius in 304 to 324 AD, persecutions against Christians intensified. Blaise was discovered in his cave by Roman soldiers who were hunting for wild animals to be used in games at the amphitheater. Recognizing him as a Christian leader, they arrested him and brought him before the local governor, Agricolas. Despite being ordered to renounce his faith, Blaise refused. He was subjected to brutal torture, including being scourged and beaten with iron combs, instruments used for carding wool. Even as he endured this torment, he continued to pray and encouraged his fellow Christians. Ultimately, he was sentenced to death and was beheaded around 316 AD. Saint Blaise's martyrdom led to widespread veneration, particularly in the Eastern and Western Christian traditions. By the 6th century, his cult had spread across the Byzantine Empire, and by the 9th century, devotion to him had reached Western Europe. His relics were reportedly distributed across various regions, including Italy, where they enshrined in many places like Meritia and Rome. Saint Blaise became particularly venerated in Armenia, where he is regarded as one of the national saints. He is also the patron saint of woolcombers due to the nature of his torture, as well as wild animals, physicians, and throat ailments. His intercession is invoked especially on February 3rd, his feast day, when the blessing of the throats is performed in many Catholic and Orthodox churches. Saint Blaise's influence extends beyond religious devotion. Numerous churches, towns, cities bear his name, particularly in Italy, France, and Spain. Dubrovnik, Croatia consider him their patron saint, and his image is found throughout the city, often depicted holding two crossed candles or the bishop's crozier. Many legends included could many legends continue to be associated with him, reinforcing his role as a miraculous leader and protector of the faithful. His story remains a testament to unwavering faith and the power of divine intervention, securing his place as one of Christianity's most enduring saints. Here are just some of the miracles performed by Saint Blaise. One of the most well-known miracles attributed to Saint Blaise involves the healing of a young boy who was choking on a fishbone. According to a tradition, a distraught mother brought her child, who was on the verge of suffocation, to the bishop. Blaise, moved with compassion, and prayed over the child as he made the sign of the cross. Miraculously, the fishbone dislodged from the boy's throat, allowing him to breathe freely again. This event led to Saint Blaise becoming the patron saint of throat ailments, and the practice of the blessing of the throats on his feast day, which is February 3rd, is a direct result of this miracle. While Saint Blaise lived in seclusion in a cave in the mountains near Sebaste, wild animals, instead of fearing him, sought his protection. Numerous accounts describe how sick or injured animals approached him for healing, and he would pray over them or lay his hands upon them, after which they would be restored to health. In one such instance, a wounded deer limped into his cave. Upon his blessing, the creature was cured and ran off without pain. This miraculous connection with animals led him to be the patron saint of wild creatures. A woman whose pig had been taken by a wolf cried out for help to Saint Blaise. The saint, demonstrating his ability to command even the fiercest creatures, called upon the wolf to return the pig unharmed. To the amazement of those who witnessed it, the wolf obediently brought the pig back. In gratitude, the woman later brought Blaise food he had while he was imprisoned, an act of charity that had become part of his legend. Then there was when Saint Blaise was arrested and was held in captivity by the Roman authorities. He did not cease his miraculous works. Fellow prisoners suffering from wounds and illnesses inflicted by torture sought his intercession. He would lay his hands upon them and prayed, and they experienced relief and healing. These acts of compassion even touched some of the jailers, who began to regard him in awe. Another account of the miracles were reminiscent of Christ's multiplications of loaves and fishes. While Blaise was imprisoned, a devout woman, whose pig he had previously saved, brought him food as offering of gratitude. As she continued to bring provisions, the food never diminished, allowing not only Blaise but also other prisoners to be fed. This miracle reinforced his role as a protector of the needy. There's also, before his execution, Blaise was subjected to brutal torture, including being scourged and raked with iron combs, tools normally used in cart wool. Though this should have caused unbearable pain and injury, he remained steadfast, demonstrating supernatural endurance. Some traditions claim that despite the severity of his wounds, he continued to speak and even bless those around him. Witnesses of his unwavering strength believed he was sustained by divine power. Finally, before his beheading, Saint Blaise prayed for those who invoked his name. Accounts said that even in the face of death, he displayed remarkable peace and radiance, as if unshaken by the agony ahead. Some sources suggest that an unnatural calm fell over the execution site, and some among the crowd were converted by witnessing his serene acceptance of his martyrdom. St. Blaise's miracles solidified his status as a revered saint, and his legacy continues through the many traditions of devotions associated with him. St. Blaise, the Bishop of St. Bast, suffered a brutal and drawn-out martyrdom during the reign of Emperor Licinius in the 4th century. His execution was part of a broader wave of Christian persecution in the Roman Empire, particularly in the eastern provinces. His arrest, torture, and eventual death were marked by remarkable endurance, divine grace, and a series of events that solidified his veneration as a saint. At the time of St. Blaise's persecution, Christianity had not yet gained full acceptance within the Roman Empire, especially in the regions where pagan governors sought to maintain imperial religious traditions. The governor of Cappadocian Armenia, Agricolas, was tasked with suppressing Christian communities in Sebaste, where Blaise was a bishop. Blaise, who had been living in the wilderness to evade persecution, was discovered by Roman soldiers while they were hunting wild animals for the amphitheater games. They were astonished to find that ferocious beasts surrounded him in a peaceful manner, though they were his devout followers. Recognizing him as a Christian leader, the soldiers arrested him and dragged him back to Sebaste to face trial. Upon his arrival in the city, Blaise was brought before Governor Agricolas, who attempted to force him to abandon Christianity and offer sacrifices to the Roman gods. Agricolas promised him freedom and rewards if he complied, but Blaise remained resolute in his faith. He boldly declared that he worshipped the one true God and refused to make offerings to idols. Enraged by Blaise's defiance, the governor ordered his guards to begin a series of tortures designed to weaken his resolve. Blaise, however, remained composed, refusing to yield to threats of the promise of earthly rewards. One of the most infamous elements of Blaise's martyrdom was his torture with iron combs. These sharp metal instruments, typically used in card wool, were racked across his flesh, tearing his skin and exposing his bones. This method of torture was intended to cause excruciating pain and gradually wear down the victim's strength. Despite this brutal treatment, Blaise endured the suffering with remarkable composure. Witnesses reported that he continued to pray throughout the ordeal, and even with his wounds bled profusely, he continued to maintain his faith. His tormentors expected him to renounce his faith in agony, were astonished by his supernatural endurance. After surviving the torture with iron combs, Blaise was thrown into a dark and filthy prison cell. Though he was weakened and bleeding, he continued his ministry even in captivity, comforted by fellow prisoners, praying for their healing, and performing miracles. One of the most famous miracles attributed to this period occurred when a mother brought her choking child into the prison gates, pleading for Blaise's help. Although he was bound and suffering, he raised his hands in a prayer and blessed the child, who was instantly healed. This miracle would later form the foundation of his patronage over throat ailments. While in prison, he was also sustained by a devout woman who brought him food. Some traditions stated that she brought him bread and candles, leading to later association of Saint Blaise to blessings of the candles. Despite his miraculous endurance, Governor Agricolas remained determined to make an example of Blaise. Seeing that neither threats nor tortures had broken him, he pronounced the final sentence: death by beheading. Before his execution, Blaise was led through the streets of Sebaste, giving him one last opportunity to renounce his faith. Instead of recanting, he used the moment to bless those around him, declaring anyone who invoked his name in times of illness or suffering would receive divine aid. The governor, infuriated by Blaise's unwavering resolve, ordered him immediately executed. The saint was taken to the outskirts of the city where the sentence was carried out. At the execution site, Blaise knelt in prayer, offering his life as a final act of devotion to God. As the executioner prepared to strike, an unnatural silence reportedly fell over the area, and some accounts claim that a radiant light surrounded the martyr. Some witnesses, moved by the serenity of his demeanor, converted to Christianity on the spot. With a single stroke, the executioner beheaded Blaise, completing his martyrdom. His body was later recovered by faithful Christians who secretly buried him with honor. After his passing, Saint Blaise's reputation as a miracle worker and protector of the sick grew rapidly. His relics were dispersed across various regions, and his intercession was sought by Christians suffering from throat ailments, wounds, and other afflictions. In the centuries following his martyrdom, churches were dedicated to his honor and became one of the most widely venerated saints in both Eastern and Western traditions. The blessing of the throats, performed on his feast day, February 3rd, remains one of the most enduring traditions associated with him. In summary, St. Blaise's martyrdom was marked by unwavering faith, miraculous endurance, and deep concern for those who suffered. His legacy as a healer, protector, and steadfast witness to Christianity continues to inspire believers around the world. His story is a testament to the power of faith in the face of persecution and the enduring strength of those who place their trust in God. Saint Blaise is one of the most venerated early Christian martyrs, is depicted in various forms of religious art spanning centuries and multiple cultures. His iconography reflects his role as a bishop, healer, and protector for those suffering from throat ailments. His attributes, posture, attire, and accompanying symbols convey his holiness, martyrdom, and miraculous powers. Here's a brief but detailed account of some of the important and common elements found in his representations. Saint Blaise is most frequently depicted as an elderly, bearded bishop, often shown in a solemn yet compassionate demeanor. His image appears in frescoes, paintings, illuminated manuscripts, stained glass statues, and religious carvings. And depending on the artistic traditions, he may be portrayed alone or in scenes illustrating his miracles, acts of mercy, or martyrdom. His representations vary between Eastern and Western Christian art. In Byzantine iconography, he is often stylized with an elongated features, a solemn gaze, and a halo, following traditional Orthodox aesthetics. While as in Western art, particularly during the Gothic and Renaissance periods, his depictions became more detailed, with intricate vestments and realistic human expressions. As a bishop of Sebaste, Saint Blaise commonly shown wearing full episcopal regalia, which distinguishes him as a high-ranking church official. These vestments often include things like his mitre, chasuble, alb, stole, and pallium. A mitre is a tall, pointed ceremonial hat symbolizing his ecclesiastical authority. In some depictions, he wears an Eastern-style mitre, reflecting his Armenian heritage. A chasuble is a richly decorated outer garment, usually in shades of red, symbolizing his martyrdom, or white, which represents his holiness and purity. An alb is usually a long white tunic signifying his role as a servant of God, while as a stole is a long and narrow strip of cloth draped over his shoulders, denoted his sacramental authority. Finally, a pallium in some depictions is a woolen band worn around the neck, reinforcing his role as a bishop. Saint Blaise is often identified by certain objects associated with his life, miracles, and martyrdom. This includes the iron combs or wool combs. This is the most distinctive attribute in his iconography. These sharp metal instruments were used to scrape his flesh during his torture. They serve as a reminder of his suffering and endurance. He's also often seen with candles, often two crossed candles, sometimes held by the saint or placed at his feet to symbolize the blessing of their throats, a practice associated with his miraculous healing of a choking child. He may be seen with a crozier or bishop's staff, which is a long ornate staff with a curved top, representing his pastoral role as a shepherd of souls. He's often shown as well with a book or scroll, which is often included to emphasize his role as a preacher or a teacher of the faith. Finally, he may be shown with a palm branch, a common symbol of martyrdom in Christian iconography, signifying his triumph over persecution. In addition to individual portraits, Saint Blaise is frequently depicted in narrative scenes illustrating key moments of his life. One of them is the healing of a choking child, one of the most common narrative depictions showing Saint Blaise blessing or placing his hands on a child struggling to dislodge a fishbone in his throat. This scene reinforces his role as a healer and patron saint of throat ailments. He may also be shown among wild animals, illustrations of him in a cave surrounded by wild animals, demonstrating his harmony with nature and divine protection over God's creatures. Some versions shown his healing wounded animals. In some depictions, he is shown being arrested by Roman soldiers. This is a common scene of being shown being captured in the wilderness, sometimes with animals looking on in distress. Another common scene is a torture with iron combs, a frequent subject in martyrdom cycles, showing Saint Blaise being raked with iron combs by soldiers. His expression often remains serene, symbolizing his unwavering faith. And of course, many scenes of iconography of Saint Blaise show his final beheading. These artworks depict his execution, with soldiers raising a sword to deliver the fatal blow, while Saint Blaise kneels in prayer. This image highlights his acceptance of his martyrdom. Of course, there are many different artistic traditions that depict Saint Blaise with unique variations, reflecting regional influences. In the Byzantine and Orthodox iconography, he's often portrayed in traditional Orthodox style, often wearing simple bishop's robes, holding a gospel and standing in frontal pose, with a golden halo. Icons may include inscriptions in Greek or Cyrillic, identifying him as Saint Blaise. In Western European medieval art, particularly Gothic and Romanesque depictions, feature elaborate vestments, detailed facial expressions, and dramatic martyrdom scenes. Saint Blaise is often shown standing or seated in teaching poses. In the Renaissance and Baroque art, these periods introduced highly detailed and dynamic compositions with dramatic lighting, flowing garments, and expressive gestures. St. Blaise's miracles were often depicted in grand altarpieces. In Latin American and Iberian art, particularly in Spanish and Portuguese religious sculptures, he appears in richly adorned bishops' robes, and processional statues of him carrying candles are common. St. Blaise is frequently depicted in stained glass windows, particularly in churches dedicated to him. These designs typically show vibrant colors, highlighting his bishop's robes, stylized medieval imagery, often with bold outlines, and scenes of him healing miracles or his martyrdom. In sculptures, he appears as a standing bishop, holding his iron combs or a child, reinforcing his role as protector of the sick. Some statues, especially in Italy and France, are paired during procession on his feast day. Saint Blaise has also been represented in heraldry and folk traditions. Some towns that claim his patronage feature his image, on coats of arms and city seals. Folk art versions of his likeness are sometimes simplified, but still retain his key attributes, such as the crozier and iron combs. In summary, the iconography for Saint Blaise is rich and varied, encompassing his role as a bishop, healer, and protector of animals, and a martyr. His distinctive symbols, such as iron combs, candles, and the crozier, help to distinguish him in religious art. His images appear in frescoes, sculptures, stained glass, illuminated manuscripts, and paintings across different artistic traditions. Whether portrayed in serene devotion amidst suffering or performing miracles, St. Blaise's visual legacy remains a powerful testament to his enduring veneration. Saint Blaise is a revered 4th century bishop and martyr who is canonized through a process that was different significantly from the formal procedures established by the Catholic Church in later centuries. His recognition as a saint emerged originally and organically through widespread veneration, miraculous accounts, and the transmission of his cult across various Christian regions. Here's a brief examination of the historical development of his sainthood. The concept of formal canonization did not exist in the early centuries of Christianity. Instead, saints were recognized through local devotion or oral traditions and the preservation of their relics. St. Blaise's cult began almost immediately after his martyrdom in Sebast, modern-day Sivas, Turkey. Local Christians collected and venerated his remains, considering him a holy intercessor. His reputation as a miracle worker, particularly concerning throat ailments, spread quickly. By the 5th century, writings, accounts of his life and miracles, such as the Acts of St. Blaise, helped to solidify his status. These texts, though somewhat legendary in nature, played a crucial role in the popular recognition of his sanctity. By the early medieval period, St. Blaise's veneration extended beyond his native region. Pilgrims and traders carried stories of his miracles to Armenia, Greece, and the Byzantine Empire. Churches and shrines dedicated to him began to appear, particularly in the Eastern Christian world. His relics were reportedly transported in various locations, further increasing his renown. By the 7th century, devotion to St. Blaise had reached Western Europe, especially through Armenian and Byzantine influence. The spread of his relics contributed significantly to his recognition as a saint across different Christian communities. In the Eastern Orthodox Church, the veneration of saints often followed a informal but structured pattern. Saint Blaise was recognized as a holy martyr by the Greek and Armenian churches, and his feast day was officially established in their liturgical calendars. His inclusion in early Christian martyrologies and hymnographies confirmed his widespread acceptance. The Byzantine Church played a key role in formalizing his veneration by promoting his relics and dedicating churches in his honor. His name was eventually included in the Orthodox liturgical texts, further legitimizing his status as a saint. St. Blaise's veneration in the West grew significantly between the 8th and 9th centuries. Monasteries and churches in Italy, France, and Spain began dedicating altars and chapels to him. The arrival of his relics in cities such as Rome and Maratea contributed to his growing recognition among Latin Christians. The Roman Church officially incorporated St. Blaise into the liturgical calendar, recognizing February 3rd as his feast day. By the 11th century, he was widely venerated across Europe, and the blessing of the throats associated with his miraculous healings of the choking child became a prominent ritual in Catholic liturgy. Although formal canonization process were not yet standardized, papal endorsement of his cult through liturgical inclusion effectively affirmed his status as a saint in the Western Church. St. Blaise's name appeared in various early Christian martyrologies, official lists of saints and martyrs recognized by the Church. The Martyrologium Hieronymium. It was one of the earliest Western martyrologies, included him solidifying his place among universally honored saints. Later, in the Roman Martyrology, an official Catholic directory of saints listed St. Blaise, confirming his recognition by the papacy. His feast day was formally observed with masses, prayers, and processions, ensuring the continuity of his veneration. Over the centuries, St. Blaise became one of the 14 Holy Helpers, a group of saints particularly invoked during plagues and illnesses. His role as the patron saint of throats ailments further elevated his prominence as faithful believers sought his intercession for healing. By the Middle Ages, churches across Europe, especially Germany, France, and Italy, held special ceremonies in his honor. The tradition of using blessed candles in the blessings of the throats became a widespread devotional practice. This ongoing devotion reinforced his status as a saint and ensured his enduring legacy. Although St. Blaise's sainthood was established through early veneration rather than the formal canonization decree, subsequent popes reaffirmed his legitimacy. The Council of Trent, which occurred from 1545 to 1563, which addressed church reform, upheld traditional saints' cults, including that of Saint Blaise. His continued presence in official Catholic liturgical texts demonstrated the Church's ongoing approval of his veneration. During the liturgical reformations of the 20th century, particularly under Pope Pius XII and Vatican II, St. Blaise's feast remained an official observance in the Catholic Church. While some saints were removed from universal calendars due to historical uncertainties, St. Blaise retained his place due to the widespread and continuous devotion. In summary, St. Blaise's canonization was not a singular, formalized event, but rather a process of organic recognition that evolved over the centuries. Beginning with local veneration in Sebaste, his cult spread across Eastern and Western Christian worlds, though through relics, miracles, and papal endorsements. His inclusion in the martyrologies, liturgical calendars, and popular devotions cemented his status as a universally honored saint. His legendary legacy endures through the annual Blessing of the Throats, ensuring that his intercession remains sought by powerful and faithful individuals.